Knuckles is black. Knuckles isn't black. Knuckles isn't real, nigga. Okay, but let's pretend that he is real for a second. Is Knuckles black? Let's discuss. Now, before I begin, I just want to mention that despite everything, I am not the definitive source for this, so please don't come for me about it. You can discuss what you believe in the comments. I'm not here for that. I just want to discuss the various pieces of evidence for and against it, and we can come to a conclusion ourselves and decide what we think about it. And I think that's the best way to do it. Let's try and be civilized people and not apes, okay? Let's just try that. So let's start with the basics and work our way up. So in order to figure out why people believe Knuckles is black, for instance, we first have to start by learning the term coding, or more specifically, black coding. Since this is a relatively new term, I'm gonna try my best to give a satisfactory definition, but again, I am not the martyr for this, so I'll try my best, but it's going to be a little hard to explain. So basically, black coding is a technique you'll see throughout media that assigns specific attributes to a character that can be read by the audience as being black traits. This can be down to personality or history and even the way the character just speaks. Now, while I don't personally like the idea of coding because it leads to a lot of stereotypical answers as to why these characters are or aren't a certain race, to some extent it does become racist, but I can also see that the majority of the time these things aren't being said out of malice, but out of a genuine love and relationship with these characters that we want to relate to. So let's apply this idea to Knuckles and see if we can draw any sort of conclusions. So we're off to a pretty good start when it comes to the conception of Knuckles. His design features what many claim to be dreadlocks, with even the American Archie comics referring to them as locks. While locks have a very significant association with African culture, specifically as dreadlocks, locks themselves are a hairstyle that many other cultures have, from indigenous people to speculation on even the Vikings. So they're not specifically called dreadlocks within this context, so it's really not enough hardcore evidence to say that yes, Knuckles is in fact black. So let's go a little further. Knuckles was originally meant to have a Jamaican accent. From what I can find, this is from and seen in an American player guide for Sonic and Knuckles. I'm not going to write this off completely just because it's produced in America, since Sega Technical Institute created Sonic 2 and had the original Japanese team working on the game, and this was the same for Sonic 3 and I'm sure Sonic and Knuckles as well. So lore regarding this character should be taken from the American side of things, since they originally created it. So if we couple that with this idea of Knuckles' shoes, which seem to feature the colours of the Rastafarian flag, and may I just emphasize that it's the Rastafarian flag because for some reason a lot of people say the Jamaican flag, despite how clearly different they are. The Jamaican one features green and black prominent colours, while the Rastafarian one has Knuckles' actual colours of red, green and yellow. How people mess this up, I don't know. Let's just chalk it down to a lack of education and people just thinking all these black countries are all the same, but I'll get off that tangent. It's the Rastafarian flag. So with all this together, you can pretty definitively argue that at least originally, Knuckles was meant to portray a black character. So hey look, Knuckles is black. Question solved. Great. But then things change. And this is where I want to get onto Sonic Adventure, which first released in Japan back in December of 1998. And this is where we solidify various things about the interpretation of Sonic media over the years. We need to combine everything together. No more European side of Sonic, no more American side of Sonic, no more Japanese Sonic. We just have Sonic. It would redesign the characters, flesh out the backstory, and give us more definitive lore for the series. And of course this would include Knuckles being the last of the tribe of echidnas. Within this tribe, we have two characters who are given actual names in the narrative, and that is Patrimac and Tikal. It's fair to say that these aren't common names, and the origins aren't as simple as glancing at Knuckles and going, oh yeah, his feet, of course, I get it. So where do these names originate? Patrimac comes from the Incan temple in Peru, while Tikal comes from the ruined Mayan city in Guatemala. Even her clothes and the tribal patterns you see around the generic echidna warriors are derived from this culture. Clearly Sonic Team took a trip to South America, and that influenced the designs of Sonic Adventure 1 along with all the other things they did around the globe. I guess it'd be fair to say that the modern day Knuckles is more indigenous than anything else. A mix of Mayan and Aztec cultures, and maybe in modern day we would even say Mexican, you know, if you were feeling a bit extra about it. So I guess that's it. In some continuities, and back in the day, Knuckles was black. But as it comes to modern day, Knuckles is more indigenous, and that's pretty cool. Of course, we can add on to that by going into the Sonic movies. Once again, we're back to America, and they cast Idris Elba as Knuckles, and I guess in that iteration you could also be fair to say that Knuckles is once again black. But I think that's what's cool about media. In this instance, there really is no definitive answer. We can say in the game's continuity, Knuckles is indigenous, but we can also point out that he was originally black, and maybe in the movie continuity he is also black. So you can really take it as what you prefer. Personally, I would prefer if Knuckles was indigenous and it followed the Echidna tribe. I think that's really cool, but hey, there's nothing wrong with Knuckles being black as well. You know, recently Akira Toriyama died, and while it's not Sonic related, the ties between Dragon Ball and Sonic are so close that I feel like it's worth mentioning in this instance, especially considering that Mexicans love Goku, despite the fact he's obviously very pale skinned, not matching up with them. And I think that's a message we can all take home when it comes to characters and media we like in general. The characters don't have to look like us. They don't have to sound like us. There's always going to be something we can relate to, and we can take that to heart even if they're not the same race as us. And I love the idea of that I can just relate to anyone despite race, gender, or anything else. It's just a really nice feeling that you can have that. And despite what we may think and our differences between whether Knuckles is black or any other character we may have, we can at least all say we relate for different reasons. And that's really cool. So I hope you take away something from this video, and just let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.